Om Ajnana-timandasya Jnana-shalakayam Chakshun Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pacharani Nirvishesha Srinyavad Paskachari Dasatarani. So today we will continue discussing chapter 20, Canto 8. Bali Maharaj surrenders the universe. That we will discuss the entire chapter and also, if possible, chapter 21, which is shorter, not so many purpose, mostly lila. But this chapter we are discussing at present contains very important principles. And we heard in the previous chapter that Sukacharya advised Bali Maharaj not to give anything to Vamandev, because he's Lord Vishnu. It will take everything away from you. And he gave so many reasons that you have promised to give him charity, but you don't have to fulfill that promise because you did not pronounce Om. That and if you make a promise and it's against your own interest, then you have no obligation to do it. And he gave so many reasons. And we heard that Bali Maharaj started to reply. And in text 2 he said, yes, he said, I agree with you about the 512. So first he agreed. But now we will go on with text 3. He will disagree. He will reject his Guru's instructions. So the question we had on the screen last time, is it appropriate for Bali Maharaj to reject his instructions, his Guru's instructions? And why is it appropriate that he took such a radical measure? So think about that. We will discuss that question, answer that question later. But think about the answer. Analyze it. Why is it appropriate that Bali Maharaj was rejecting his Guru's instruction? It's Guru Tyag, rejecting your Guru. That this is unheard of in the Vedic society. So, text 3. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Sachaham Vittalo Bena Patyasakse Katam Diviyam Patisutya Tadamiti Paradi Kitavoyata. I am the grandson of Maharaj Prahlad. How can I withdraw my promise because of greed for money when I have already said that I shall give this land? How can I behave like an ordinary cheater, especially toward a Brahmin? So much of the purport of Srila Prabhupada is about Kripa Siddhas. what are the examples given of Kripa siddhis siddhas in the purport? Srila Prabhupada speaks about the Jahyapatnis, the wives of the Brahmins who gave food to Krishna and Balaram, that Bali Maharaj is certainly Kripa siddhi because of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj blessed him. That Sukadeva Goswami was also Kripa siddhi. From birth, he did not follow any of the rules. After birth, he left home. At the time of birth, he just left home. That's Kripa siddhi. We'll read purport. Bali Maharaj had already been blessed by his grandfather Prahlad. Therefore, he was a pure devotee, although born in a family of demons. There are two kinds of highly elevated devotees called sadhana siddhi and kripa siddha. Sadhana siddha and kripa siddha. Sadhana siddha refers to one who has become a devotee by a regular execution of regulative principles mentioned in the Shastras as ordered and directed by the spiritual master. If one regularly executes devotional service, he will certainly attain the perfection in due course of time. But there are other devotees who may not have undergone all the required details of devotional service, but who by the special mercy of Guru and Krishna, the spiritual master and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, have immediately attained the perfection of pure devotional service. Examples of such devotees, Srila Prabhupada said, are the Jahyapatnis, Bali Maharaj and Sukadeva Goswami. The Jahyapatnis were the wives of ordinary Brahmins engaged in fruitive activities. Although the Brahmins were very learned and advanced in Vedic knowledge, they could not achieve the mercy of Krishna and Balaram, whereas their wives achieved complete perfection in devotional service despite their being women. Similarly, Vairochani, Bali Maharaj, received the mercy of Prahlad Maharaj, and by Prahlad Maharaj's mercy, he also received the mercy of Lord Vishnu, who appeared before him as a brahmachari beggar. So, if that is the qualification to receive Krishna's mercy, Kripa siddha, then all of us are Kripa siddhas. We got the mercy of the Guru and Krishna. We got the Bhaktivedanta beach. We got the seat of devotional service. Of course, we did not become immediately. And so those who become immediately, they are the real Kripa siddha. But we got also Kripa. Bali Maharaj got the seat of devotional service of Prahlad. So it is said further in the purport. Thus Bali Maharaj became a Kripa siddha because of the special mercy of Guru and Krishna. So, of course, Guru here is meant Prahlad Maharaj, not Sukracharya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirms this favor. Guru Krishna Prasadi Bhai Bhakti Lata Beach. Bali Maharaj, by the grace of Prahlad Maharaj, got the seat of devotional service. And when that seed developed, he achieved the ultimate fruit of that service, namely love of Godhead. Prema Pumarta Mahan, immediately upon the appearance of Lord Vamadev. Pali Maharaj regularly maintained devotion for the Lord because he was purified. The Lord appeared before him. Because of unalloyed love for the Lord, he then immediately decided, I shall give this little dwarf whatever he asks for me. This is a sign of love. Thus, Pali Maharaj is understood to be one of the highly perfected devotional, is understood to be one who received the highest perfectional devotional service by special mercy. So Puri Prabhu talks about the Jahya Patnis. So when they saw Krishna the first time, then Krishna entered their hearts of the Jahya Patnis, and they became perfect Kripa-siddha. So Bali Maharaj, he was already a devotee, but when Vamandev came, then he stole his heart away. Hari means one who steals. And Sukacharya predicted that Hari will come and he will take everything. See, he took not only the universe, he took his mind and his heart. That now he has given his heart and he will give everything to Vamandev. So I have an example here from an excerpt of Tamal Krishna Goswami. It's an example of how also devotees were behaving like Vamandev. He said, as we walked around the park, Tamal Krishna Maharaj told Srila Prabhupada that when he applied to the city of New York for the permission to hold Ratha Yatra, he told them that it will be a small cart with only some drum players. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj laughed. This is another trick of the Hare Krishnas. Of course, when the Ratha Yatra was there, it were 3 huge carts and thousands of people appeared. So he compared it, Srila Prabhupada compared it to Vamandev asking only 3 steps of land. Bala Maharaj, although born in a family of a demon, he was not a demon, not at all. Text 4. There is nothing more sinful than untruthfulness. Because of this, Mother Earth once said, I can bear any heavy thing except a person who is a liar. So that is one reason for sure that he rejected his spiritual master. He considered untruthfulness to be the most sinful act. But it's not a primary reason. We will see. So I read the purport, small one. On the surface of the earth, there are many great mountains and oceans that are very heavy. And Mother Earth has no difficulty carrying them. But she feels very much overburdened when she carries even one person who is a liar. It is said that in Kali Yuga, lying is a common affair. Maeva Vyavahariki, Bhagavatam 12:2-3, 12th canto, 2nd chapter. All the symbols of Kali Yuga are described. Even in the most common dealings, people are accustomed to speaking so many lies. No one is free from the sinful reactions of speaking lies. Under the circumstances, one can imagine how this has overburdened the earth and indeed the entire universe. So now Bali Maharaj is trying to defeat the arguments of Sukracharya. And Bali Maharaj says, no, it's not okay to lie. But in his heart, he felt great devotion for Vamandev. But nonetheless, he gives all these reasons to defeat the arguments of his guru. In text 5, he is giving the reason why he doesn't want to lie. So I do not fear hell, poverty on poverty, a notion of distress, fall down from my position, even death itself, as much I fear cheating a Brahmin. So that's another argument why he does not accept the instructions of his guru. So he's using scriptural arguments here. But there are, of course, these are secondary reasons, good reasons, shastic reasons. So, what is the worst thing what can happen to you? Yeah. So, how many of you would think that going to hell is the worst thing that happened to you? That can happen to you. So Bali Maharaj is listing all the worst things that can happen, all things that will happen to him. He will go to the lower planets, everything will be taken, he will not feel distress but he will not feel this distress because of his pure devotion. But he will fall down from his position. So he won't die, but he didn't want to cheat a Brahmin. In the 10th canto, Lord Krishna speaks about someone who cheats a Brahmin. In 10th canto, chapter 64, there's that Krishna is speaking to his family members. 10, 64, 35. I read these verses. If a person enjoys a Brahman's property without receiving due permission, that property destroys 3 generations of his family. But if he takes it by force or gets the government or other outsiders to help him to usurp it, then 10 generations of his descendants are all destroyed. So Krishna is teaching his sons, grandsons, so that they never cheat a Brahmin. Members of the royal order, blinded by royal opulence, fail to foresee their own downfall, Krishna says. Childishly hankering to enjoy a Brahman's property, they are actually hankering to go to hell. For as many years as there are particles of dust touched by the tears of generous Brahmins, who have dependent families and whose property is stolen uncontrolled, kings who usurp a Brahman's property are cooked along with their royal families in the hell known as Kumbhapaka. Whether it be his own gift or someone else, a person who steals a Brahman's property will take birth as a worm in feces for 60,000 years. Haribo. So here is more what is going to happen when for those who take away a Brahman's property. Not only will he ruin his family, he will be cooked in Kumbhapaka. So Krishna continues, I do not desire Brahman's wealth. Those who lust after it become short-lived and defeated. They lose their kingdoms and become snakes who troubles others. All these things will happen. Then Krishna concludes, my dear followers, never treat a learned Brahmin harshly, even if he has sinned, even if he attacks you physically or repeatedly curses you, always continue to offer him obeisances. Lord Krishna offers this instruction not only to his personal associates, but to all those who claim to be followers of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just as they always carefully, just as I always carefully bow down to the Brahmins, so all you should likewise bow down to them. I will punish everyone who acts otherwise. When a Brahmin's property is stolen, even unknowingly, it certainly causes the person who takes it to fall down, just as the Brahmin's cow did to Naga. So Lord Krishna is demonstrating here these instructions that they are not just theoretical, but practical, as seen concretely in the case here of King Nrija, who became a lizard and so on. So these are instructions not to cheat a Brahman. Now text 6. Text 6 is also a very good argument. My Lord, you can also see that all the material opulence of this world are certainly separated from their possessor, death. Therefore, if the Brahman Dev is not satisfied by whatever gifts one has given, why not please him with the riches one is destined to lose at death? So this is a very good argument. You lose it anyway, so why don't please the Lord with it? The word Vipra means Brahman, the purport, and at the same time, confidential. Bali Maharaj had confidentially decided to give the gift to Lord Vamandev without discussion, but because such a decision would hurt the hearts of the Asuras and his spiritual master, Sukracharya, he spoke equivocally. Bali Maharaj, as a pure devotee, had already decided to give all the land to Lord Vishnu. So even though he was a pure devotee, he's speaking all these words not to make it hard for his guru and his friends. His friends are all demons. His guru is a Karmakandiya. He's given arguments and reasons, and he's even trying to enlighten his guru. Now in text 7, Bali Maharaj will give examples of people who already gave everything. So it says insignificant. Whatever you give is insignificant, even if it is the whole universe. The Lord has the whole universe under control. And this is what Bali Maharaj is going to give. So what Bali Maharaj is going to give is insignificant in compared with what he's going to get. He's going to get something much more valuable. So the question is, what did he receive what was much more valuable than the entire universe? So keep that in mind, that while we're going to this arguments. So the examples are there. Tadici, Sibi, and many other great personalities were willing to sacrifice even their lives for the benefit of the people in general. That is evidence of history. So why not give up this insignificant land, what is a serious consideration against it, it says. So, the beginning of the purport. Bali Maharaj was prepared to give everything to Lord Vishnu, and Sukacharya, being a professional priest, might have been anxiously waiting, doubting whether there had been such instance in history in which one had given everything in charity. So this verse is the answer. So Bali Maharaj, however, cited the tangible examples of Maharaj Sibi and Maharaj Tadici, who had given up their lives for the benefit of the general public. So Maharaj Sibi, he gave his flesh he gave his flesh in exchange for the weight of a pigeon. And Aditi gave his bones to fashion Indra's thunderbolt to fight against Vritrasura. So the purport continued. Certainly one who has attachment for everything material, especially one's land, but land and other possessions are forcibly taken away at the time of death, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Ritu Sarvasarasham, the Lord personally appeared to Bali Maharaj to take everything he had, and thus he was so fortunate that he could see the Lord face to face. Non-devotees, however, cannot see the Lord face to face. To such persons, the Lord appears as death and takes away all their possessions by force under the circumstances. Why should we not part with our possessions and deliver them to Vishnu for his satisfaction? Sishanakya Pandit says in this regard, Sanimite varam tyago vinasenyate sati. Since our money and possessions do not last, but will somewhere or other be taken away, as long as they are in our possession, it is better to use them for charity to a noble cause, and therefore Bali Maharaj defied the order of his so-called spiritual master. So it's interesting because in Vedic society, to defy your guru, it's a great sin to reject your guru. I read from a lecture of Srila Prabhupada, Nectar of Devotion, Bombay, 1972. In this lecture, Srila Prabhupada speaks about the gopis and the Jagyapatnis, about Prahlad Maharaj, and to see one's father Prahlad Maharaj saw his father being killed in one's own presence. But the main thing is to please Krishna. It may appear to the social rules, it may appear to the social rules, but that it's odd. But when it's done for Krishna, then it's good. But we can't imitate and go against the rules. Srila Prabhupada gives a nice example. When Krishna got a headache, nobody was prepared to give the dust of their feet to cure Krishna. Only the gopis said yes. And Narada Muni said, "You are going to give the dust of your feet to Krishna?" The gopis said, "Yes, we are going to hell, but it does not matter. what happens to us, but Krishna must be pleased. We want to cure his headache. This is the highest principle. That highest principle that was neglected by Shukracharya. He proposed the opposite. Do not please Vishnu. And that was the main reason why it was appropriate to disobey his instructions. He instructed him against the principles of devotional service. So a Mishra Bhakti may say, yes, I'm a devotee as long as my family is maintained and everything is going nice in my life, then I'm a devotee. Otherwise, no. Worship some demigod or do something else. Srila Prabhupada speaks about people coming to Vrindavan and they give all their money to their family. They ask their family just to send them 200 rupees a month for their maintenance. So Prabhupada said that Krishna would say, oh, you work so hard and you give all your money to your family and you come here empty-handed. If you are giving 200 rupees to Krishna, then Krishna will be 200 rupees for you, Srila Prabhupada said. If you give everything to Krishna, then Krishna will give yourself to him. And that is the most valuable thing. That Sanakya Pandit said, you have this money and it will be taken away. So better use it for Krishna. Srila Prabhupada said either money will go from you or you will go from the money. It will happen at the end of your life. So one way or another, you will not be able to keep it. If you try to keep it, then the government will take it away. If the government sees that you have money, then they will tax you. So better you spread it for Krishna. Also, there's a very nice purport in 6.10.6. Srila Prabhupada quotes Sanakya Pandit and he comments, if one is advanced in knowledge, he must always be prepared to sacrifice anything for a better cause. At the present moment, the entire world is a dangerous position under the spell of a godless civilization. The Krishna conscious movement needs many exalted, learned persons who will sacrifice their life to revive God consciousness throughout the world. We therefore invite all men and women advanced in knowledge to join the Krishna consciousness movement and sacrifice their life for the great cause of reviving the God consciousness of human society. So Srila Prabhupada is begging, give your life to Krishna for spreading this movement. He's like Vamandev. Who of us will answer his call? That's a good point. So Krishna will put you in such a position. Finally, Krishna will do that. Will put you in such a position that you need to surrender. In the Vedic society, it was built in that at the age of 50, you would leave everything and you would take sannyas. It is very difficult now to follow. We have so many people in our movement who are over 60 and they don't take sannyas. They start to get married at the age of 50. That's a problem. This is a comment of Mother Narayani. She says, the problem is that we gave our youth to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada did not allow sense gratification. Therefore, when you get at your midlife crisis, and then one thinks, I didn't do this and I didn't do that, And then you try it and you are miserable, and then you regret. Only if I could surrender to Krishna, Srila Prabhupada found. That's a nice introspective comment that so we have text 8. O best of the Brahmins, certainly the great demoniac kings who were never reluctant to fight enjoyed this world. But in due course of time, everything they had was taken away, except their reputation by which they continued to exist. In other words, one should try to achieve a good reputation instead of anything else. So it's accepting a part of the instruction of Sukacharya, that who said 5 things are important. One is dharma, reputation, maintenance, opulence, and sense gratification. So he's accepting, yes, reputation, that's the highest. For Kshatriyas, reputation was the most important thing. This is an argument by Krishna to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. If you don't fight, then you will lose your reputation. This is a very heavy thing. Kshatriyas, they want to keep their reputation. The reputation is given to the Brahmins, being charitable and keeping their word, their promise. Kshatriyas are known to be truthful to their vow, their word of honor. His reputation is not the real reason. Bali Maharaj wants to give everything because he loves Vamandev. It is out of devotion. The purport in this regard, Sanakya Pandit also says, Ayu Saksana Ekipi na Lapya Svarako Tibi. The duration of one's life is extremely short, but if that short lifetime, in that short lifetime, one can do something that enhances his good reputation, that may continue to exist for millions of years. Bali Maharaj therefore decided not to follow his spiritual master's instruction and to deny his promise to Vamandev. Instead, he decided to give the land to the land according to the promise he everlastingly and he be everlastingly celebrated as one of the 12 Mahajans. Bali Vyasakir by 12 Mahajans. So, think back in history. Let's go 200 years back. How many people can you remember from 200 years back? How many people lived on the earth 200 years ago? That's out of the 6-7 billion people in this world that lives now on this world, who will be remembered in 200 years from now? How many years took these pastimes? How many years ago took this pastime of Bali Maharaj to take place? It's during our present Manu. Not so long ago, just a few million years. And we still remember him. A few million years. Actually, he's the only one who is famous among his contemporaries, and we remember him today. Of course, except Prahlad Maharaj. And who will remember us 200 years from now? Very few. One reason that he says that reputation is very nice is that it extends your life in a sense. Like our lifetime is very, very short. Bali Maharaj makes a point that if people are doing good, they are remembered. Text 9. O best of the Brahmins, many men have led down their lives on the battlefield, being unafraid of fighting, but rarely one has gotten the chance to give his accumulated wealth faithfully to a saintly person who creates holy places. So he says that the chance to fight is always there. In Kali Yuga, everyone wants to fight. So there's no problem to find someone to fight with. But to find something which is worthy of charity, that's very rare. So to give it to Krishna directly, that's amazing. Text 10. So that's another argument. Yeah. You have to find someone who is worthy of charity, and the most worthy person is there standing before Bali Maharaj. Text 10. By giving charity, a benevolent and merciful person undoubtedly becomes even more auspicious, especially when you give charity to a person like your good self under the circumstances. I must give this little brahmachari whatever charity he wants from me. So Papa writes in a purport that if one accepts a poverty-stricken position because of losing money in business, gambling, prostitution, or intoxication, no one will praise him. But if one becomes poverty-stricken by giving all his possessions in charity, he becomes adored all over the world. So we don't read on the internet news about someone like this, that someone who gave so much money that he had nothing left for himself. That was what Bali Maharaj did, and also Dadichi and King Sibi. Dadichi and King Sibi, they were examples of giving charity, being charitable, that for higher purpose. But Bali Maharaj will be in a different position. It will be Atman Nivedanam. I believe he will offer himself, his own heart, his soul, everything. That text 11. O great sage, great saintly persons like you, being completely aware of the Vedic principles for performing ritualistic ceremonies and yagyas, worship Lord Vishnu in all circumstances. Therefore, whether that same Lord Vishnu has come here to give me all benedictions or to punish me as an enemy, I must carry out his order and give him the requested tract of land without hesitation. Now, Bali must really start to preach to his guru. He says that you are worshipping Vishnu and I can't worship Vishnu. Sacrifice is useless without worship of Lord Vishnu. So we have the last sentence in the purport that of text 11, that so Bali Maharaj, having been perfectly educated in the devotional service by his grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj, knew how things are to be done. He was never misguided by anyone, even by a person who happened to be his so-called spiritual master. This is a sign of full surrender. Bhaktivedanta Thakur said, Marabira kapi yaicha tohara nityadasa pratituya adhikara. When one surrenders to Lord Vishnu, one must be prepared to abide by his orders in all circumstances. Whether he kills one or gives one protection, Lord Vishnu must be worshipped in all circumstances. That so text 12, although is Vishnu himself, out of fear he has covered himself in the form of a Brahman to come to me begging. Under the circumstances, because he has assumed the form of a Brahman, even if he irreligiously arrests me or even kills me, I shall not retaliate, although he is my enemy. So he's saying, suppose he's Vishnu, but he knows he's Vishnu. But he says, suppose he's Vishnu. But he has taken the form of a Brahmin. Then still the principle is there. A Kshatriya must give charity to the Brahmins. Text 13. Text first, yes. That the purport of 12. If Lord Vishnu, as he had done to Bali Maharaj, and asked him to do something, Bali Maharaj certainly would not have refused his request. But to enjoy a little humor between himself and his devotee, the Lord covered himself as a Brahman brahmachari, and thus came to Bali Maharaj to beg for only 3 feet of land. That it seems that yes, the Lord loves to present, to show some humor, but also Bali Maharaj here is a little in a joking mood. So Srila Prabhupada explains the meaning of Bali Maharaj's purport in the meaning of Bali Maharaj's statement here in the purport that So I read the text again, 13. If this Brahman really is Lord Vishnu, who is worshipped by Vedic hymns, he should never give up his widespread reputation either. He would lie down and having killed by me, or he would be killed by me, or he would kill me in the fight. So Bali Maharaj's statement that Vishnu would lie down having been killed is not a direct meaning, for Vishnu cannot be killed by anyone. Lord Vishnu can kill everyone, but he cannot be killed. Just the real meaning of the words lie down is that Lord Vishnu would reside within the core of Bali Maharaj, and Lord Vishnu is defeated by a devotee through devotional service. Otherwise, no one can defeat Lord Vishnu. That's interesting. Mostly we understand the scriptures to direct meaning. But here we have, here we have an indirect meaning, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport. So it is not that Vamandev will defeat Bali. So Bali will defeat Vamandev. Something different is happening from what we see. He will defeat Lord Vishnu, and Lord Vishnu will lie defeated in Bali Maharaj's heart. So that's the indirect meaning. He will defeat him by his devotion. Of course, we have this verse that Lord of the Bhagavatam, that Lord Chaitanya spoke to the Kurma Brahman. Just by remaining in your position and hearing about the Lord, one can conquer the unconquerable. That's something we can also do. Text 14. Sri Sukadev Goswami continued. Thereafter, the spiritual master Sukacharya, being inspired by the Supreme Lord, cursed his exalted disciple Bali Maharaj, who was so magnanimous and fixed in truthfulness that instead of respecting his spiritual master's instructions, he wants to disobey his orders. So at the beginning of the purport, the difference between the behavior of Bali Maharaj and this of his spiritual master Sukracharya was that Bali Maharaj had developed love of Godhead, where Sukracharya, being merely a priest of routine rituals, had not. Just imagine the one who is supposed the spiritual master should be the disciple. So Bali Maharaj was preaching to his guru that so it said, thus Sukracharya was never inspired by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to develop in devotional service as stated by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita. Tesam satayuknam bhatsnam pritipavakam dadami bhuti yogam tam yena mamapayantite. Those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Devotees who actually engage in devotional service with faith and love are inspired by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vaishnavas are never concerned with ritualistic smarta Brahmins. Sri Sanatana Goswami has therefore compiled Hari Bhakti Vilas to guide the Vaishnavas who never follow the smarta vidhi. Although the Supreme Lord is situated in the core of everyone's heart, unless one is a Vaishnava, unless one is engaged in devotional service, one does not get sound advice by which to return home back to Godhead. Such instructions are meant only for devotees. Therefore, in this verse, the word Deva Prahita, being inspired by the Supreme Lord, is important. Sukracharya should therefore encourage Bali Maharaj to give everything to Lord Vishnu. This would have been a sign of love for the Supreme Lord, but he did not do so. On the contrary, he wanted to punish his devoted disciple by cursing that. So, yes, amazing. In this pastime, the hero is a demon, and the so-called Brahman, the hero is a demon that, and externally at least, but he's a pure devotee. And the so-called Brahman, he's a demon, not a devotee. It's quite the opposite. That, so this is Lord Shiva is speaking to Narada Muni in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. He said to Narada, my dear sage, Bali violated the spiritual master etiquette by disobeying the order of his spiritual master and failing to be true to one's words. Still, we know that the Lord agreed to become the guarder of Bali's door. Was this the fruit of Bali's insignificant charity? The Lord also granted protection to the wicked Bana. And was this the result of my offering prayers to the Lord? Because Bali got the Lord as his doorkeeper. Someone may suggest that Bali got more mercy than Prahlad. That's what he got. He got Lord Vishnu himself, Brahmandev, which is more, the Lord gave himself to him. That's the most valuable thing he got. That according to Lord Shiva, this is not true. Lord Vishnu favored Bali only because Bali was Prahlad's grandson. So by his relationship with Prahlad, Bali got a mercy. Fighting for the demons against the demigods, Bali overturned the law of the universe and said by Lord Brahma that the demigods should rule heavens and the demons the subterranean. That's the normal arrangement. The subterranean, Patala Loka. By invading heaven, usurping the throne of Indra, awarding the post of various demigods to demons, Bali violated this natural order. Bali also disobeyed the instruction of his spiritual master, Sukracharya, and Sukracharya warned Bali not to give anything to Vamandev, even though Vamandev had offered his choice and gift of charity. By having to disobey his spiritual master, he earned Shukracharya's curse. The conclusion: the only reason for Bali's good fortune can only be his exchange of prema bhakti between Prahlad and his worshipable Lord. So it is actually because of Prahlad. Lord Nrsimhadev promised Prahlad that 21 generations of his family would be liberated. If we become pure devotees, generations of our family will be liberated. Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj said that if you are not a pure devotee, but a Madhyam devotee, 14 generations before and after will be liberated. If you are a neophyte devotee, 3 generations before and after. So there is all hope for us. We will read text 15. Although you have no knowledge, you have become a so-called learned person. And therefore you dare to be so impudent as to disobey my order. Because of disobeying me, you shall very soon be bereft of all opulence. So the purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Bali Maharaj was not Pandita Mani, or one who falsely assumes himself learned. Rather, he was Pandita Manya Kya, one who is so learned that all other learned persons worship him. And because he was so learned, he could disobey the order of his so-called spiritual master. He had no fear of any condition of material existence. Anyone cared for by Lord Vishnu does not need to care about anyone else. Thus Bali Maharaj could never be bereft of all opulences. The opulences offered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead are not to be compared to the opulence obtained by Karma Kanda. In other words, if a devotee becomes opulent, it is understood that this opulence is a gift of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such opulence will never be vanquished, whereas opulence achieved by one's fruitive activity may be vanquished at every moment. Everything that happened was the plan of the Lord. It was Krishna's plan that Shukracharya would curse Bali. Vamandev had promised Aditi to do the needful, but he had to arrange that Shukracharya withdrew his blessings. So it's important to understand. The Lord before has said to Aditi, I cannot intervene with anything because the demons, they are protected by Shukracharya. And it's on his strength. And I cannot go against the Brahmins. That's because Shukracharya blessed them. But now by cursing Bali Maharaj, he withdrew his blessings. And then the Lord can act. We get that point? That's an important point that's made here. Because he could not go against the Brahmins. The Lord respects the Brahmins. So he could not say that he did not care what Shukracharya was saying. Even Brihaspati would not go against Shukracharya. The words of the Brahmin must be upheld. Thus Krishna had to cheat. He was not going to fight or defeat Shukracharya. He was just begging Bali Maharaj simply 3 steps of land. We have heard in 7.3.13 purport before. In spiritual advancements, one's material position improves at the same time that the path of liberation becomes clear and one is freed from material bondage. Read text 16. Sukadev Goswami continued, even after being cursed in this way, by his own spiritual master, Bali Maharaj, being a great personality, never deviated from his determination. Therefore, according to the custom, he first offered water to Vamandev and then offered him the gift of the land he had he had promised that, so he did not deviate that from his duty. That so we will continue after the break. It's 5 o'clock now. We have a pause for 10 minutes. So we will come back at 10 past 5. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Now I will read text 16 again. Sukadeva Goswami continued. Even after being cursed in this way by his own spiritual master, Bali Maharaj, being a great personality, never deviated from his determination. Therefore, according to custom, he first offered water to Vamandev and then offered him the gift of land he had promised. So, this is Danavir, that chivalry in giving charity, Nectar Devotion says. A person who wants to give everything to Krishna in charity, but does not want anything in return, is a real renouncer. That's what Rupa Goswami says. And we experience now this Danaviras of Bali Maharaj. That text 17. Bali Maharaj's wife, known as Vindhyavali, who was decorated with a necklace of pearls, immediately came and had a large golden water pot brought there, full of water with which to worship the Lord by washing his feet. Text 18. Bali Maharaj, the worshipper of Lord Vamandev, jubilantly washed the Lord's lotus feet and then took the water on his head, for that water delivers the entire universe. 19. At that time, the residents of the higher planetary systems, namely the demigods, the Gandharvas, the Vidyadharas, the Siddhas, and the Charanas, all being very pleased by Bali Maharaj's simple, non-duplicitous act, praised his qualities and showered upon him millions of flowers. That purport. Archavan, simplicity of freedom from duplicity, is a qualification of a Brahman and a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava automatically acquires the qualities of a Brahman. Yasyasti bhakti bhagavata kinchana saverkna statra samastasara. A Vaishnava should possess the Brahmanical qualities such as Satya, Sama, Dhamma, Titiksha, and Aryava. There cannot be any duplicity in the character of a Vaishnava. When Bali Maharaj acted with unflinching faith and devotion unto the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, this was very much appreciated by all the residents of the higher planetary system. So what does it mean, duplicity? To think one thing and to do another thing. That's the duplicity. Or to say one thing and do another thing. That you may start doing it for Krishna and then later on you do it for yourself. That's duplicity. That it's a beat in the heart. So in the 1970s, there was big book distribution there was big book distribution. And then all the temples switched from book distribution to selling paintings. And then the devotees started to get married and started to do for their families, for their own. So this can happen. Of course, some grihasthas also give donations. No duplicity, it is condemned. We should follow Bali Maharaj, the Majan, who was Arjavan, very simple, simplicity. We try all to become Brahmins and Vaishnavas. So we should follow the acts of Bali Maharaj. The impersonalists, they are full of duplicity. How are the impersonalists full of duplicity? They worship the Lord, they do Panchapashan, 5 deities, and one is Vishnu. And when they get liberation, they throw away the deity. So there are other points of duplicity in the impersonalists. Everything is one unless it pertains to their personal benefit. They wear sannyas cloth, but they don't follow the rules. They engage in illicit sex with women, etc. That. In the purport of 327.6, Srila Prabhupada writes, sometimes they pretend, this impersonalist, to execute devotional service, but ultimately the idea is to become one with the Supreme. They are just doing it so that they can merge. That Srimad Bhagavatam 4:21-33. Anyone can be successful in devotional service, provided he displays no duplicity, Srila Prabhupada writes. What does it mean to display no duplicity? It means, how do you behave? You act according to your own words. What you say, you do. To act according to Krishna's desire, controlling the mind, means eating, sleeping, mating, defending, must be pure. In Srimad Bhagavatam 4:21-33, Srila Prabhupada gives another symptom. Be frank and open-minded. Frank means that you are straightforward. Bali Maharaj is the example of not being duplicitous. If you are situated in a lower status of life, this is not a qualification for success in devotional service. Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras should be frank and free from reservations. They will surely be successful. Then they will be successful in achieving the final success in your life. Text 20. That the Gandharvas, the Kimpurushas, and the Kinnaras sounded thousands of kettle drums and trumpets that again and again, and they sang in great jubilation, declaring, "Oh, exalted a person is like Bali Maharaj, and what difficult task he had performed. Even though he knew that Lord Vishnu was on the side of his enemies, he nonetheless gave the Lord the entire universe, the three worlds, in charity." So this is Archavan. Your enemy comes to you to beg charity, and you give everything you have. And then text 21. The unlimited Supreme Personality of Godhead had assumed the form of Vaman, then began increasing in size, acting in terms of the material energy until everything in the universe was within his body, including the earth, the planetary systems, the sky, the directions, the various holes in the universe, the seas, the ocean, the birds, the beasts, human beings, the demigods, and the great saintly persons. So Bali Maharaj wanted to, in the purport of the first sentences, Bali Maharaj wanted to give charity to Vamandev, but the Lord expanded his body in such a way that he showed Bali Maharaj that everything in the universe is already in his body. Actually, no one can give anything to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for he is full in everything. And then Srila Prabhupada gives an example of offering water to the Ganga. So Krishna does not need our offering, but we get the purification. Bhakti is an important ingredient in the offering. The Lord does not need the offering. He wants our bhakti. At the end of the purport, it is said, in this regard, the example is given that when one's face is decorated with a garland and sandalwood pulp, the reflection of one's face in the mirror automatically becomes beautiful. The original source of everything is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is our original source also. So therefore, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is decorated, the devotees and all living entities are decorated automatically. So we have heard this example before. Prahlad Maharaj has given that in his praise to Lord Nrsimhadev in 7.9.11. And Srila Prabhupada is just paraphrasing that in the purport here. Text 22. A Bali Maharaj, along with all the priests, acharyas, and members of the assembly, observed the Supreme Personality of Godhead's universal body, which was full of 6 opulences. The body contained everything within the universe, including all the gross and material elements, the senses, the sense objects, the mind, the intelligence, the false ego, the various kinds of living entities, and the actions and reactions of the 3 modes of material nature. We go to the middle of the purport, that of 22. Yeah. So here Bali Maharaj was the seer of the personality of God, its universal body. And that body was that which was seen. Thus, there is Veda Vad. There are always 2 entities, the seer and the seen. The seer is a part of the whole, and he is not equal to the whole. The part of the whole, the seer, is also with the whole, but since he is but a part, he cannot be the complete whole at any time. This Asintya Veda Veda, simultaneous one and difference, is perfect philosophy propounded by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So why is it better to have 2 than 1? Because of rasa. You cannot have a relationship otherwise. Relationship, if there is only one, there is no question of rasa. Text 23. Thereafter, Bali Maharaj, who was occupying the seat of King Indra, could see the lower planetary systems, such as Rasatal, on the soles of the feet of the Lord's universal form. He saw on the Lord's feet the surface of the globe, on the surface of his calves all the mountains, and his knees various birds, and his thighs the varieties of air. Text 24. Bali Maharaj was beneath the garments of the Lord, who acts wonderfully. The evening twilight. In the Lord's private parts, he saw the Prajapatis, and in the round portion of the waist, he saw himself with his confidential associates. In the Lord's navel, he saw the sky. On the Lord's waist, he saw the 7 oceans, and on the Lord's bosom, he saw all the clusters of stars. So in this universal form, the waist is Indra's heavenly planets. And now we have text 25 to 29. It's a whole description. My dear king, on the heart of Lord Murari, he saw religion. On the chest, both pleasing words and truthfulness. In the mind, the moon. On the bosom, the goddess of fortune, with a lotus flower in her hand. On the neck, all the Vedas and all sound vibrations. On the arms, all the demigods, headed by King Indra. In both ears are all the direction. On the head, the upper planetary systems. On the hair, the clouds. In the nostrils, the wind. On the eyes, the sun. And in the mouth, fire. From his words came all the Vedic mantras. On his tongue was the demigod of water, Varunadev. On his eyebrows were the regulative principles, and on his eyelids were day and night. When his eyes were open, it was daytime. When it was closed, it was night. On his forehead was anger, and on his lips was greed. The king, O king, in his touch were lusty desires. In his semen were all the waters. On his back was irreligion. And in his wonderful activities or steps was the fire of sacrifice. On his shadow was death. In his smile was illusory energy. And on the hairs of his body were all the drugs and herbs. In his veins were all the rivers. Or his nails were all the stones. In his intelligence were Lord Brahma. The demigods were the great saintly persons. and throughout this entire body and senses were all living entities moving and stationary. Balimats thus saw everything in the gigantic body of the Lord. So there is a quote, I have a quote here from Harivamsa describing the same thing. That he said, while extending his first step, the sun and moon came like two dots on his chest. That with his second step, he was covering the heavenly planets, and the sun and moon were under his navel. After covering all the planets, the sun and the moon were under his knees. And the sun is basically in the middle of the universe. This is Vamandev's universal form. It is a different universal form from what Arjuna and Duryodhana saw. There is another Shrutamala Yasoda, that different universal forms. Now we'll read till text 34. O king, when all the demons, the followers of Maharaj Bali, saw the universal form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who held everything within his body, when they saw the Lord's hand, his disc, known as the Sudarshan Chakra, which generates intolerable heat, and when they heard the tumultuous sound of his bow, all disclosed lamentation within their hearts. The Lord's conch named Pansajanya, which made sounds like that of a cloud, the very forcible club named Kamodaki, the sword named Vidyadhar, with a shield decorated with hundreds moonlight spots, and also Akshaya Sayaka, the best quivers. All of these appear together to offer prayers to the Lord. These associates, headed by Sunanda and other chief associates, and accompanied by all the predominating deities of the various planets, offered prayers to the Lord, who wore a brilliant helmet, bracelets, and glittering earrings that resembled fish. On the Lord's bosom were the lock of hair called Srivatsa and the transcendental jewel named Kaustuba. He wore a yellow garment covered by a belt, and he was decorated by a flower garland surrounded by bees. Manifesting himself in this way, O king, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose activities are wonderful, covered the entire surface of the earth with one footstep, the sky with his body, and all directions with his arms. Text 34. That as the Lord took his second step, the last verse, he covered the heavenly planets, and not even a spot remained for the third step, for the Lord's foot extended higher and higher beyond Marloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and even Satyaloka. When the Lord's footstep, the purport, short purport, last one, when the Lord's footstep exceeded the height of all the lokas, including Marloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka, this nail certainly pierced the covering of the universe. The universe is covered by the 5 material elements, as stated in the Shastra. These elements are in layers, each 10 times thicker than the previous one. Nonetheless, the nails of the Lord pierced through all these layers and made a hole penetrating in the spiritual wall, into the spiritual world. From this hole, the water of the Ganges infiltrated into the material world. Therefore, it is said, Padanaka Nirajanita Janapavana. This is from the Dasavatar song, from Jayadev. Because the Lord kicked a hole in the covering of the universe, the water of the Ganges came into the material world to deliver all the fallen souls. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purpose of the 8th canto, 20th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Bala Maharaj Surrenders. So we have heard about this also in the 5th canto, that verse 1. He kicked a hole in the universe with his foot. The first step was the right foot, and the second step was the left foot. It was with the left toe and the Ganga came through. First, the Ganga washed the lotus feet of the Lord, which are covered with reddish powder. Thus the water of the Ganges acquired a very beautiful pink color. By taking bath in the Ganga, everyone can purify his mind of material contamination. Even though we dump our sins in the Ganga, it always remains pure. So many things are going into the Ganga. It remains always pure. So, Patita Pavani, the liver of all sinful beings, that is one name. So Srila Prabhupada said in the purport of the 5th canto that if you regularly take bath in the Ganga, you will be purified both externally and internally. There's a quote from the purport of that verse, 15:17:1. Standing on his right foot and extending his left to the edge of the universe, Lord Vaman became known as Trivikram. Incarnation who performed the heroic deeds. Trivikram is another name for Vaman. 2740 Srimad Bhagavatam. There's another verse about Vamandev in the Bhagavatam. Who can describe completely the powers of Vishnu? Even the scientists who might have counted the particles of atoms of the universe cannot do so, because it is he only who in his form as Trivikram moved his leg effortlessly beyond the topmost planet, Satyaloka, up to the neutral state of the 3 modes of nature, and all were moved. There's another reference from the 11th canto, chapter 6:13. O omnipotent Lord, in your incarnation as Trivikram, you raised your leg like a flagpole to break the shell of the universe, allowing the holy Ganges to flow down like a banner of victory. In 3 branches throughout the 3 planetary systems, by 3 mighty steps of your lotus feet, your lordship captured Bali Maharaj along with his universal kingdom. Your lotus feet inspire fear in the demons by driving them down to hell and fearlessness among your devotees by elevating them to the perfection of heavenly life. We are sincerely trying to worship you, our Lord. Therefore, may your lotus feet kindly free us from all sinful reactions. That in the Gaura Lila, we have Lord Chaitanya, who took the role of Lord Vamandev. So, with great delight, Nimai, the Supreme Lord and object of all sacrifice, left his father's house to go on a begging tour in the surrounding houses. He performed his customary procedures with a great difference of assuming the form of Sri Vamandev, a dwarf incarnation, who requested 3 steps from his devotee Bali Maharaj, and then accepted nothing short than full surrender from him. The devotees were amazed. The boy, so Lord Chaitanya takes the form of Vamandev, that the devotees were amazed. The boy appeared as Vaman, rightly glowing, with a staff in his hand and a pouch over his shoulder. He appreciated everyone to receive their offerings. He approached everyone to receive their offerings and offer his mercy. He could do all this because he was not a personality of this universe. The ladies of the houses poured alms into his pouch according to their means, and joyfully they gave him the best of wealth, and he reciprocated by delivering them from the bondage of this world, not wishing to miss serving Shiva Amandev. The consorts of the great sages and demigods disguised as Brahman wives availed themselves of the same opportunity. Anyone who saw the beautiful Lord in his Vaman pastime became free from all sins and attained love of God. In this way, the Lord's previous Lila as Vaman was reacted for the welfare of the world. Lord Chaitanya's pastime as Vamandev had more significant than his previous Lila, in which he is showing that the Lord and the living entities are only pleased by sacrifice, satisfied not only by sacrifice of things in this world, which is Vaman's first step. The second step is the higher realm of intelligence, mind, and false ego. But there is something far beyond this. He wants surrender also of our soul. With that surrender, the full engagement of devotional service takes place. That is the third step from Chaitanya Bhagavat. So these are different references and comments. Now, I looked at a few of your comments, and we were asked to look at this question, analyze the propriety of Bali Maharaj rejection of his Guru's instructions. I would say here there are two kinds of reasons Bali Maharaj said, primary and secondary. Can someone tell me what's the primary reason why he rejected this, the instructions of his spiritual master? Yeah, so you can raise your hand. Yes, Navadvip Chandra Prabhu, please speak.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So Bali Maharaj, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I'm here. We are hearing
okay.
Very clear.
Okay. So Bali Maharaj was a devotee, and he was happy to follow Lord Vishnu's instruction. So he did not consider that his Guru's instructions, which encouraged him to reject Lord Vishnu's instructions, were appropriate. So it's his loyalty to Lord Vishnu as a devotee, I would say, is the primary reason.
So, but then what's the primary duty of a spiritual master?
To bring one towards Krishna. So when his Guru failed to do that, it was appropriate for him to reject.
Yeah, the primary reason, as you state, is yes, and the duty of the spiritual master is to bring his disciple back to Godhead. And therefore he has to instruct him in devotional service to Krishna or Vishnu. And the spiritual master is saying, don't perform devotional service, don't do it. So it's going against the instructions, the main principle of bhakti. And therefore he has to be rejected. He's not going to bring his disciple back to Godhead. To bring the disciple back to Godhead, the disciple must develop pure love of Godhead. And Bali Maharaj had already pure love of Godhead. But that was the defect of Bali Maharaj. And all the other reasons which are given are secondary reasons. Good, justice reasons, but secondary. We should remember that if we speak about the propriety of Balma's rejection, that that's the primary reason. So the other are secondary reasons, and you have all mentioned them. That so that's very good. Thank you, Navadvip Chandrapur. That I have here a comment on the screen of Bhakti Nrsimha Maharaj. I will read that. In Srimad Bhagavatam 8, 2021, it says, Vaman then began increasing in size until everything within the universe was within his body, including the earth, planetary system, the sky, the directions of various holes in the universe. Are these various holes the same as the ones mentioned in the modern theory of the black holes? Yeah, these black holes, that is something these scientists, they are speculating about it. They say 95% of the universe is consists of dark matter, they say. But they don't know what dark matter is. They cannot explain it. So it's a very dark science that so they don't know what it is. These black holes, and that of course what they see I can also not explain. That is a good question for those who have studied the fifth canto deeply and made these studies, but it's very difficult to understand. Good point. That I wish I would know the answer. That okay, we are continuing now. That now chapter 21. Bali Maharaj will be arrested. But I have another question for you. That and that's on the screen. Vamandev took everything away from Bali Maharaj. Nevertheless, Bali Maharaj retained something extremely valuable. What was that? And what is its value? So he took everything away, but he retained something very extremely valuable. So that will be the question on the 21. We will come back for questions at the end. That if you have still questions, chapter 20. At the end, that means in 20 minutes, but we will first start the 21st chapter. Otherwise, we will not be able to finish Friday. And I want to share with you all the comments of our acharyas, and also especially Burijan Prabhu's comments also. So we have a new chapter, Bali Maharaj arrested by the Lord. Sukadev Goswami continued, when Lord Brahma, who was born of a lotus flower, saw that the effulgence of his residence, Brahmaloka, had been reduced by the glaring effulgence from the toenails of Lord Vamandev, he approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Brahma was accompanied by the great sages, headed by Marichi, and by the yogis like Sanadam. But in the presence of that glaring effulgence, O King, even Lord Brahma and his associates seemed insignificant. So Brahma is on this highest planet. And suddenly it comes out of his house of palace. I don't know what's the situation of Satyaloka. But suddenly he sees in the sky this big foot coming. That must quite be an experience, right? Up from the ground somewhere in the sky, and it's very effulgent. It's come up that so they see the bottom of the foods and the marks on the food, and they say, what is this? These effulgence, and it takes away the effulgence of their residents. That no, what are they? They see this big food. What are they going to do? Text 2:3. Among the great personalities who came to worship the lotus feet of the Lord were those who had attained perfection in self-control and regulative principles, as well as experts in logic and history, general education, and the Vedic literature known as kalpa, dealing with old historical incidents. Others were experts in the Vedic corollaries like the Brahma Samhita. All the other knowledge of the Vedas, Sama, Yajur, Rig, Atharva, and also the supplementary Vedic knowledge, Ayurveda, Dhanurveda, etc. Others were those who had been freed of the reactions to fruitive activities by the transcendental knowledge awakened by the practice of yoga. And still others were those who had attained residence in Brahma Loka, not by ordinary karma, but by advanced Vedic knowledge. After devotedly worshipping the upraised lotus feet of the Supreme Lord with oblations of water, Lord Brahma was born of the lotus feet, who was born of the lotus feet, emanating from Lord Vishnu's navel, offered prayers to the Lord. That and text 4. O king, the water of Brahma's Kamandalu washed the lotus feet of Vamandev, who is known as Urukram, the wonderful actor. Thus that water became so pure that it was transformed into the water of the Ganges, which went flowing down from the sky, purifying the three worlds, like the pure fame to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here is Urukram and Trifrikram. So we have an apparent contradiction here. First he kicked a hole in the universe and the Ganga came through. And now we hear that Brahma washed his food with his water of his Kamandala. So that is explained in the purport of text 4. I will read therefore the purport. Here we understand that the Ganges began when the water from Lord Brahma's Kamandalu washed the lotus feet of Lord Vamandev. But in the 5th canto it is stated that the Ganges began when Vamandev's left foot pierced the covering of the universe, so that the transcendental water of the coastal ocean leaked through. And elsewhere it is also stated that Lord Narayana appeared as the water of the Ganges. The water of the Ganges, therefore, is a combination of these three transcendental waters, and thus the Ganges is able to purify the three worlds. This is a description given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He puts it all together. That text 5. Lord Brahma and all the predominating deities of the various planetary systems began to worship Lord Vamandev, their supreme master, who had reduced himself from his all-pervading form to his original form. They collected all the ingredients and paraphernalia for this worship. The purport, text 5. Vamandev first expanded himself into the universal form and then reduced himself to the original Vaman Rupa. Thus he acted exactly like Lord Krishna, who at the request of Arjuna first showed his universal form and later assumed his original form as Krishna. The Lord can assume any form he likes. His original form is that of Krishna, Krishna's two Bharavansvaram. According to the capacity of the devotee, the Lord assumes various forms so that the devotee can handle him. This is his causeless mercy. When Lord Vamandev assumed his original form, Lord Brahma and his associates collected various paraphernalia for worship with which to please him. So Vamandev again reduced himself for worship, etc. Yasoda, she saw the universal form of Krishna, but Krishna kept his form as a small baby. He just opened his mouth. That was enough. Everything, the whole universe was in his mouth, because he did not want to disturb Mother Yasoda's love for him. Therefore, he did not expand and kept its form of a small baby. This is the difference between Krishna and his other incarnations. The other incarnations do something wonderful. They assume a gigantic form like Nrsimhadev. He just keeps his sweet childish form, and he can kill any demon and do anything, fighting with huge wrestlers. That is the difference between Krishna and his other incarnations. Text 6-7. They worship the Lord by offering fragrant flowers, water, padya and arghya, sandalwood pump and aguru pump, incense lamp, fused rice, unbroken grains, fruits, roots, and sprouts. While so doing, they offered prayers indicating the glorious activities of the Lord and shouted Jai Jai. That they all then danced, played instruments, sang, sounded conch and beat kettle drums, in this way worshipping the Lord. So it seems there was a whole festival arranged that Lord Brahma saw this big feat and arranged to do puja. All the puja paraphernalia were there, and abhishek and dancing and singing. Just imagine Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva and all the demigods are dancing, probably chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. That's a comment by Bhurijan Prabhu. They are all offering these different elements, and they all have a good vibration. In the material world, a bar or club has a bad vibration. It brings you down. But these things are very purifying. Text 8. Text 8. Jambavan, king of the bears, also joined in the ceremony, sounding his bugle in all directions. He declared a great festival of Lord Vaman's Day victory. Jambavan. Suddenly, Jambavan comes in this pastime. And that is interesting. That so how did he know that in this time there was no email, there was no internet? Therefore, the means of communications are different. The king would send out messengers all over the kingdom to beat drums and make proclamations. So for the universe, we have Jambavan, the messenger of all over the universe. So we have an excerpt here from the Ramayana. And that tells exactly how we did it. This is from Ramayana Kishinda Kanda. Sugriva, the king of the monkeys, is sending soldiers north, east, south, and west to look for Sita. So he sent Angada's party, which included Hanuman and Jambavan, to the south. They did not find Sita in the south, and finally they came at the ocean. Angada was the leader of the party. So he's asking volunteers to jump 100 yojanas to Lanka. So Angada, he asked, whoever can jump 100 yojanas to rescue Sita, please step forward. So nobody responded. So Angada started to ask the monkeys individually how far they could jump. One after another, the monkeys responded. Some say that I can jump 10 yojanas. Some said, I 20, or I can do 30. And another said 40, 50. And my said he could jump 6 yojanas. And Pivida claimed that he could jump 70 yojanas. Susena declared that he could jump 80. Then Jambaman spoke. He said, formerly, I had almost an unlimited jumping capability. But now at the end of my life, I can jump 90 yojanas and no more. He can only go 90 at that age. And of course, he had lived even until Krishna's pastimes. So he lived much longer than that. Of course, Vaman Lila was before Ram Lila. So here is what is happening. Long ago, when Lord Vamandev had covered the entire universe, Jambaman said, I circumambulated him as he took his 3 strides. And now, unfortunately, I'm not capable to jump to Lanka to save Sita. In the past, this little jump would have been nothing for me. Lord Vamandev expanded his 3 steps to take away Bali Maharaj's kingdom. I soared around the world 21 times. Before Jambavan was immensely powerful. And here it says that he was playing his bugle, announcing the victory of Vamandev. He circumambulated 21 times, and at the same time he was blowing his bugle and making the announcement that Vamandev has conquered the universe. He was going around the universe for 21 times. That's 21 times going around the universe. Jambavan was also there at the time of churning the milk ocean, when the oceans and the asuras desired to churn the nectar of immortality from the milk ocean. He said, it was I who single-handed collected all the herbs that were thrown into the milk ocean. Collected the herbs did not mean just one garden. He had to go all over the universe. I'm very old, so now it's up to Hanuman to exhibit his astonishing prowess. It was Tetra Yuga when Lord Ram appeared, and the Van pastime was much before that. So by the time Jambavan had gotten a bit old, many millions of years old, and still he lived until Dwapara Yuga for Lord Krishna's pastime. And he fought with Krishna over the Syamantaka jewel. That's in the 10th canto. So we will now there are no purpose, I will read text up till 23. When the demoniac followers of Bali Maharaj saw that their master, who had been determined in performing sacrifices, lost all his possessions to Vamandev, who had taken them away on the plea of begging 3 paces of land, they were angry and spoke as follows. That this Brahman is certainly not a Brahman, but the best of the cheaters. Lord Vishnu assumed the form of a Brahman. He has covered his own form, thus is working for the interest of the demigods. Oh, Lord Bali Maharaj, because of his position in performing the Jagya, has given up the power to punish. Taking advantage of this, our eternal enemy Vishnu, dressed in the form of a brahmachari beggar, has taken away all his possessions. O Lord, Bali Maharaj is always fixed in truthfulness. And this is especially so at the present, since he had been initiated into performing a sacrifice. He's always kind and merciful toward the Brahmins, and he cannot at any time speak lies. Therefore, it is our duty to kill this Vamandev, Lord Vishnu. It is our religious principle on the way to serve our master. After making this decision, the demoniac followers of Maharaj Bali took up their various weapons with view of killing Vamandev. O king, the demons aggravated their usual anger, took their lances and tridents in hand, and against the will of Bali Maharaj, they pushed forward to kill Vamandev. O king, when the associates of Lord Vishnu saw the soldiers of the demons coming forward in violence, they smiled. Taking up their weapon, they forbade the demons to continue their attempt. Nanda, Sunanda, Jai, Vijay, Prabal, Bala, Kumuda, Kamudaksha, Vivakshina, Patrat, Pritat, Jayanta, Shrutadev, Pushpadanta, and Satvata were all associates of Lord Vishnu. They were so powerful as 10,000 elephants. Now they began killing the soldiers of the demons. When Bali Maharaj saw that his own soldiers were being killed by the associates of Lord Vishnu, he remembered the curse of Sukracharya and forbade his soldiers to continue to fight. O Viprachiti, O Rao, O Nemi, please hear my words. Don't fight. Stop immediately, for the present time is not in our favor. The Daityas, by human efforts, no one can supersede the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can bring happiness and distress to all living entities. The supreme time factor, which represents the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was previously in our favor and not in favor of the demigods, but now the same time factor is against us. No one can surpass the time representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by material power, by the council of ministers, by intelligence, by diplomacy, by fortress, by mystic mantras, by drugs, by herbs, and by other means. Previously being empowered by the providence, you defeated a great number of such followers of Lord Vishnu, but today those same followers have been defeated and are roaring in jubilation like lions. Bhagavad Gita mentioned 5 causes of defeat or victory. Of these 5, Deva, providence is the most powerful. Nasadevat Parambalam. Bali Maharaj knew the secret of how he had formerly been victorious, because providence was in his favor. Now, since that providence was not in his favor, there was no possibility of his victory. Thus, very intelligent, he forbade his associates to fight. Unless providence is in our favor, we shall not be able to gain victory. Therefore, we must wait for a favorable time when our defeating them will be possible. That Sukadeva Goswami continued, O king, in accordance with the order of their master, Bali Maharaj, and all the chief of the demons and the Daityas entered the lower regions of the universe, which they were driven by the soldiers of Vishnu. So we will continue tomorrow with text 626. So then we will hear about Bali Maharaj being arrested. So Anand Kaur Sundar, Prabhu, you can ask your question now.
In chapter number 20, verse 25 to 29.
Yeah.
So in between there's a description of Lord's mind being illusory energy and things compared to the greed, etc. So generally we hear religion to be the backside of the Lord. That is something which we hear so many times in the Bhagavatam. But here greed coming in picture and then illusory energy coming in the picture right on the face of the Lord, it's a little difficult to understand.
Yeah, there are different universal forms here. That the Virat group described in the second canto was a different form. That yes, their irreligion is the backside of the Lord. that and all these bad qualities. It's a good point, a good observation. That in which verses is that? You say
25 to 20 and Maharaj.
25. No, 25. Yeah, that's this whole description. That, but it said also here, on his back was irreligion, so it's mentioned here. On his forehead was anger, and his lips was sweet. That, yes.
But these two things are little like inconsistent till now, because in second canto or third canto, the back of the Lord where he was sitting, when Uddhava meets the Lord after the annihilation. So there also backside is compared to religion, and various places in the Virat Roop also, religion is generally the backside. But these are parts of religion like greed and anger. So they are coming right on the face is something which generally we don't find. So
but anger is expressed in the face. That the lips read, yeah. That it may have its meaning, but I don't know it. That's the only thing that I can say. That because all these points have certainly its meaning, but there are no purports, so I don't want to speculate on it. Good, thank you. Any other questions on this chapter 20 and 21 that we went through until now? That please raise your hands. That
can I ask one more question?
yes, Anand, go. Sooner, there is no one else. You can ask another question.
Maharaj, when Vamandev just appeared and his different demigods came and they were giving different items to the Lord. That is just before Vamandev proceeded to the sacrificial arena of Bali Maharaj. And then after reaching the sacrificial arena of Bali Maharaj, we find Lord Sword in this Trivikrama form. And then we find there that Brahmaji was like very amazed to see this feet going up, which had so much effulgence. So it seems he went very quickly and to Satyaloka just after, because this seems like a continuous episode of Lord being appearing and immediately leaving for the arena of Bali Maharaj. So then how did Brahmaji suddenly he went to Satyaloka and then he's amazed to see Lord's feet going up. So it seems that things happened very rapidly.
Yeah, that's Lord Brahma. He travels to the universe on his swan carrier. That can go very quick for sure. But most of these sages, they remain in this highest planetary system, because this is far, far beyond the heavenly planets. Tapaloka, Janaloka, Marloka, the Tapasvis, and those who control completely their senses and so on. That and certain jnanis, very learned, that they go to these planets. That and then they saw this big feet appear, and Lord Brahma arranged for the worship. That yes, but it's interesting that yes, these demigods, because the demigods are also in all the elements. That so yeah, it's a good comment. Thank you. Any other questions? That what do we learn here about surrender? That Mhm. That so we learned what the qualities are of a bona fide spiritual master. That and we learned the reasons, arguments of Bali Maharaj towards his spiritual master. That they are all justly correct. First, he agrees with him about the division of wealth. Then after that, he starts to point out different things that so Maharaj Prabhu, you want to ask something?
Yes, Maharaj. Can I ask a question, Maharaj?
Yeah, yes, sure.
Maharaj, we see that although Bali Maharaj had decided to give in charity whatever Vaman Dev asked because of his love for the Lord, and yet he maintains a reasonable argument for his demon associates and also for Shukracharya. I was wondering about this phenomenon that although loves God, he is grandson of Prahlad Maharaj, and yet he is in the company of demons. He is taking guidance from Shukracharya. Even now, when the associates of Bali Maharaj were willing to attack Lord Vamana, he gives them instructions as per common Dharma Shastras. He doesn't express his devotion. He does not outrightly forbids them, but could you comment on that, Maharaj?
Yes. After all, Bali Maharaj is the leader of the demons, and he plays that role perfectly. The demons want sense gratification. Okay, Shukracharya is the ideal guru for them, Karma Kandiya, and he knows these demons, they want sense gratification, have no interest in devotional service. So he's engaging them in a slow path. Karma Kanda is enjoying piously, and gradually you go up. So he's using that system, and they want to enjoy, and the highest enjoyment is on the heavenly planets. So that's their goal, and he's going with that. But in his heart, he's not interested in that because he's a pure devotee. But he plays his role because he wants everyone on his level to make spiritual advancement. And Lord Krishna is also does the same thing in Bhagavad Gita. He speaks to at the same time to different levels of transcendentalists. Because many verses in the Bhagavad Gita can be interpreted from the jnani viewpoint, Brahman is supreme, or it can be interpreted from the yogis, mystic powers, and realizing Brahman or realizing the super soul. So Krishna in Bhagavad Gita speaks to all levels. He wants, because some do not accept Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they accept Brahman, which is an aspect from him. Therefore, he wants them also to make spiritual advancement on their level. That then maybe they can go to the next level, and the next one come to bhakti, and that's also the compassion of Bali Maharaj. He wants them to make spiritual advancement, and this pastime is now very good because if the demons are a little intelligent, they will see what happens. That Bali Maharaj will surrender. And what will be the result? they will get a nice example, and then they may understand the situation and give up everything. So but in some sense, for us, by hearing this pastime, we are going to the same thing. We have still these petty desires in our heart and so on. We're coming closer to the 10th canto, and we have given up already something, but it's still subtle, this material. And here we see Bali Maharaj, who is very determined. He has this determination to make advancement in devotional service, to this determination, whatever happens, I will satisfy the Lord. And that's what we need to hear. What happens in our life, whatever we want, it's all temporary, it's useless. Our life should be focused only on pleasing the spiritual master and the Supreme Lord. Make that, and that's Atmani Vedanam. Do whatever necessary to please the spiritual master. So yes, that's a nice comment. Thank you, Maharaj. Does that help a bit to understand?
Yes, thank you, Maharaj. And another point I was thinking, that when Prahlad was a student in the Gurukul of Shand and Amarka, Prahlad was preaching outrightly to his classmates and trying to elevate them. But now I think grandfather and grandson are conjointly trying to elevate all the Rakshasas together. So thank you, Maharaj, for this enlightening comment.
Yeah. Of course, Prahlad Maharaj, he preached quite directly to his schoolmates, but his schoolmates were very young and still easy to form. Because someone asked Srila Prabhupada, it was an outsider, a journalist, he said, in your movement, it's only young people. What with the older people? Why are there no older people joining? And Srila Prabhupada replied, when you go to the university, what do you see? Young people, right? They can easily be formed. So that was Prahlad Maharaj preaching to his schoolmates from a young age. If you do it from a young age, yes. But older people, because we have still that their family members are in their family. You have Hiranyakasipu, Hiranyaks are great demons, and so on. That and interesting, Lord Vamandev is glorifying them. That also, although he does not appreciate their demon side, but they were very strong in their determination, and he glorified that. Yes, very good. Something else?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yes, and Carlson, no problem. Yes.
Maharaj, regarding the emanation of Ganga, so we find that casual ocean water coming seeping inside. So I always had this question that when Mahavishnu, universe comes from the body of Mahavishnu, does it float on the causal ocean? It remains inside the causal ocean, or it is above? But because it is seeping inside, it looks like universe is inside rather than floating. So I could understand this causal ocean is also there, and then we have Brahman effulgence spreading everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So where is the exact position of the universe in terms of Brahman and causal ocean?
In the first canto, the 5th chapter, there you have the vision when Srila Vyasadeva start to meditate with devotion on the instructions of Narada Muni. and then he describes what he sees. He sees the spiritual world with the Brahman effulgence, and then he sees the material world, the material universe. And between is the Viraja river, that's the coastal ocean. That's between that. So you have the 8 layers of the universe, and then you have the Viraja river, and then at the other side the Brahman, the Brahmajyoti, and then Vaikuntha. That's my understanding. So when he put his whole into the universe, to the universe, yes, then the water of the Viraja river was coming in somewhere or another. That, of course, this is transcendental water. How that happened, how this, because it's also described I think in the 5th canto how the water was transported to the Milky Way and so on. So what kind of water it is, that it is said that finally the Ganga water comes to the Himalayas, which is the highest mountain, and there it comes in on this planet. But how this happens, that's a mystery. I cannot say, but what the scriptures say, we must accept with faith. That's important. You want to say something else, Anand?
Yes, Maharaj, actually, I had 2 type of things. Like in one of the purports in the 2nd canto, Prabhupada writes that causal ocean is made up of Mahatattva. So I read it.
Yeah, Mahatattva. Yeah.
And Prabhupada also speaks in one of the lectures that Brahma Jyoti is trying to penetrate through the 8 coverings of the universe, which actually Krishna's effulgence.
Yeah.
But it is not able to fully penetrate inside. That's why the sky is blue. So the blue color is actually the effulgence of Krishna. So because Krishna is blue, the sky is blue. Now, if this particular universe is inside the causal ocean, so then how do Brahma Jyoti come inside? Because we find Brahma Jyoti and material universe is divided by the causal ocean.
No, it's not that Brahma Jyoti comes inside anything. Brahma Jyoti is everywhere, also where we are here. Brahmanoi Pratisthana. I'm the all-pervading Brahman, Krishna says, and that comes from me. But when the creation starts, it starts with Lord Mahavishnu glancing. By his glance, he put the 3 modes of material nature unmanifested in Brahman. So Brahman is everywhere. But here, Brahman in this material world is covered by matter. We cannot see it, but it's there. It's there. Does that help?
It is very clear, Maharaj.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So then we will, Maharaj Prabhu, last question, please.
Yes, Maharaj, in the 4th canto, 1st chapter, verse number 14, while describing the descendants of Kardam Muni and Devahuti, they had one daughter, Kala, and further down the line, it is written that Devakulya was the water which washed the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, and which later on transformed into Ganges of the heavenly planets. So Prabhupada writes in the purport to the same verse, it is understood herein that Devakulya is the presiding deity of river Ganges, which comes down from heavenly planet to this planet, and is accepted to be sanctified because it touched the lotus feet of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari. So this seems like the 4th origin of Ganges, apart from 3 given in that purport.
Yes, that's it. That's interesting. It would be interesting to research that deeper. That, of course, we may be interested in all this, in all these details, But finally, what should be interesting to us is what's in here in this pastime that will help me to make spiritual advancement. And that's really our benefit. And we learn this process of surrender here. And we will hear more about that tomorrow, about Pali Maharaj's mood. And that's what we need to adopt, this mood, understanding this mood, living in this mood of surrender. And that takes a lot to adopt this mood. So that's really the essence. All these details about what happens in the universe, nice, but it will not help us really in our spiritual advancement. That although it's nice to be curious about this and want to know these things, but that kind of scholarship is not really what is required. We must be concerned with spiritual IQ. Spiritual IQ means understanding the spiritual techniques and how to get out of here, so that we can get out of this suffering and elevate our consciousness to consciousness which is penetrated with pure devotion. And that requires surrender. And these are the glories of these pastimes. Thank you very much. I look forward to continue discussing this pastime tomorrow. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada. Hare Bol.